back to Girl Take the Lead, the podcast where we dive into real, raw, and remarkable stories of people breaking cycles, finding hope, and leading with courage. Today, we're tackling a word that has become a badge of honor for far too many of us: busy. My guest, Peggy Sullivan, keynote speaker, best-selling author, and self-proclaimed busyness addict in recovery, joins us. Peggy spent years chasing success in corporate America until wake-up calls, a stress-related heart attack, fractured relationships, and even a hilarious moment involving cat food forced her to confront the hidden costs of our hustle culture. In this episode, Peggy shares her research-driven busy busting framework and the science behind why busyness can feel like an addiction. She'll walk us through simple, life changing strategies to reclaim hours in our week, boost happiness, and finally live with more joy and intention. You'll love this. Peggy also reads a powerful passage from her book, Beyond Busyness: How to Achieve More by Doing Less. That might just change how you think about productivity. Let's dive in. Here you go. Hi, Peggy. Welcome to Girl Take the Lead. We're going to have such a great conversation. So thanks for joining us.
You are so welcome.
Yeah. So would you start, please, by kind of introducing yourself to our audience? That would be awesome.
Absolutely. My name is Peggy, and I am a busyness addict in recovery. I spent most of my life in corporate America, raising the bar and chasing the bar until I realized that I was addicted to my busyness. So now I'm spending the rest of my life helping other people escape time poverty through my busy busting process and just learn to enjoy life by being healthier, happier, and more productive.
It sounds so good. And tell us about your book and how that got played out with your mission.
I started a nonprofit about 10 years ago. And when I started the nonprofit, it was a research driven nonprofit. And I kept on asking the world one question: what is your biggest challenge? And everybody kept on telling me, I don't have time for what's important. Busyness. I'm over the top busy. So I started researching it. And the more I researched it, the more I realized that busyness is an addiction. We actually get a dopamine high off of the adrenaline. And so we want to do it again and again. And I was a busyness addict. No matter how many wake up calls I had, I just couldn't escape it. So for me, I started writing a book because I really wanted to figure out how to escape this busyness that was pulling me down and gave me so many wake up calls in my life. And I wanted to develop a process that would not only help me, the AKA busyness addict in recovery, but also help other people. So, Beyond Busyness: How to Achieve More with Less is a book that's about the process that I stumbled into about 8 years ago. And it also shares a lot of practical tools and also some of the wake up calls, because I think a lot of times we think, addiction, that sounds so horrible. And, the fact of the matter is, addiction is serious,
Mhm.
right? We
Yeah.
normally think about drugs and alcohol, but we don't think about busyness as an addiction. But when I look at my life and look at all the wake up calls and all of the things that were compromised because I was in a mindless haze. I mean, there was a time I turned my car upside down because I wasn't focused on driving. There was
Mhm.
a time I actually ate cat food for dinner, thinking it was pistachio nuts, and not realizing until my cat threw up all over me. I
Yeah.
had a stress-related heart attack when I was 40, and my husband walked out on me because he said, Honey, you're not spending enough time with me. We have no relationship. You won't even notice when I'm gone. So it just really, all of those wake up calls really got me thinking, first and foremost, I'm not alone. The rest of the world is stuck on this hamster wheel, and I have no doubt in my life they are looking for a way to get past it. But even, more importantly than that, I really wanted to help myself. And the
Yeah.
book was about the process I developed and writing about it and spreading the word to as many people as possible.
Right. So I think in your book, you refer to one of the concepts as four letter word that probably would that either be time or busy? I'm going to guess it's busy, but is that right?
Yeah, and when I grew up in my household, we weren't allowed to use four-letter words. Now,
Mhm.
granted, that was a while ago,
Right.
where maybe soap in your mouth was something that was now today considered child abuse, but back then it wasn't. And every time I said a four-letter word, my father would stick soap in my mouth and watch me blow bubbles. And so I started to think about that sour, horrible taste because I started to notice that when I asked people, "How are you doing?" They never said, "I'm fine." They never told me what was going on. They just said the dreaded, "I'm so busy." Like it was a
Mhm.
status symbol, a sign of importance. I'm doing okay because I'm so busy. And so that's why I started the book off saying, busy is a four-letter word. It's not a badge of honor. Bad
Yeah.
things come when we're not focused and we're not paying attention. And so think about a bar of soap every time you say that four-letter word.
So, what do you think the cost is associated for us with being busy, keeping ourselves busy?
I think there are multiple costs. We usually put self-care on the back burner, which we never have enough time, and that is usually what goes. Sleeping, eating meals,
Mhm.
exercising. Another cost, which people don't often think about, is connection and human relationships. And I'll give you an example of that. I have a best friend, her name is Paula, and we have girls' night out together. And we, for a while, did it every single month for as long as I can remember 10 years. And Paula got a new house, Paula got a new job, Paula got a new boyfriend. Paula was that four-letter word that I'm not going to use.
Right.
But Paula no longer had time to meet me for our girls' night out because she just had too much going on. And it made me realize that when
Mhm.
we're in a state of overflow and busyness, it affects not just us, but the people around us, our
Mhm.
relationships. Maybe it affects a manager who just doesn't have time to coach and mentor their employee to the
Mhm.
fullest capacity, or maybe a manager who doesn't have time to do the market research or the competitive analysis or the studying. Or my favorite is, 83% of individuals spend 30% of their time in meetings with only one third of them productive. So you do the math. We're spending
Yeah.
7 hours a week unproductively. It's crazy. So there are
Yeah.
lots of price tags:
Yeah.
productivity, health, happiness, you name it.
So, what are some signs you think that we should look for to see if we're just being productive or if we're addicted?
Stress,
Mhm.
overwhelm, and feeling like you got to the end of the day and you still had so much more to do.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I wonder too if we um there are certain probably misconceptions and beliefs that we have around busyness. What do you think some of them are?
Yeah, I mean, our hustle society tells us that busyness is good. It's a
Mhm.
status symbol, it's a sign of importance. That doctor, I can't get in to see him for 6 months, but he must be really, really good. Or my next door neighbor, Johnny, he leaves for work really early in the morning and doesn't get home until 7 p.m., often after his family has sat down for a family dinner. But hey, He is a rock star. He's been
Yeah.
promoted 3 times. So I feel like we just look at busy people and put them on a pedestal and believe that it's a sign of importance. It means you're doing well. But in reality, what it means is that you're not focused. You're on this hamster wheel going round and round and round, and you're getting stuff done. But are you really getting the important stuff done?
Mm. So, how do you help people with busting some of that up?
Yeah, I developed what I call the busy busting framework, which is a 3-step process. And each step can be used on its own and really help you feel a sense of calm. The first step is what I call subtraction, and it is about eliminating the low value activities. We all get stuck in these busy traps. Maybe we start our day first thing and we're going to look at email, and next thing you know, we're down the email rabbit hole, or maybe we let interruptions in. There are lots of busy traps, and when we become aware of them and we
Mhm.
start to eliminate some of the most common ones, we find that we make time for what's important. We have
Mhm.
more time. So, step one is subtraction. The
Yeah.
step 2 in the process is what I call mojo making. I wrote my book about happiness and about my first book about the neuroscience of happiness. And what I learned in that book is how happiness has superpowers. It actually sends neurotransmitters to our body, basically giving us the ability to be more focused, to have more energy, to be more charismatic, to fight off chronic disease. But unfortunately, most of us think about happiness as I will be happy when. It's a
Mhm.
destination, it's a thing. So, step 2 is about what I call happiness rituals, creating happiness rituals throughout your day so you get that endomorphic hit that lights you up and gives you so much energy and ability to focus. And it can be something as simple as, for me, at 11 a.m., no matter where in the world I am, I eat dark chocolate. I just close my eyes and I smell it because it smells so darn good.
Yeah.
And then I taste it and I keep my eyes shut, and it's like the reset button. I got to push
Yeah.
the reset button.
Not a bad one. Well, I think underneath all of that, you talk about values. And
Mhm.
like you were just saying, finding what's important to you. So, how do you help people look at the values?
Yeah. Throughout most of my career as a speaker, I've spoken to a lot of organizations and groups about values. And it's
Mhm.
always been curious to me when I ask people, are values important to you? And they'll raise their hand and it'll be like a 10 out of 10 for sure. And then I'll ask people, well, do you know what your values are? And they'll start to yell out things like trust, family, and then they'll get a little bit stuck.
Uh-huh.
And then they'll start to Google values, or they'll look at their neighbors, reaction. And that got me realizing that, we have these certain values that we hold on to because we think that they make us good people, but are they values that make us feel fulfilled? That make
Mm.
us feel like we're really living life to the fullest? So I got really curious about that. And I asked about 12,000 people, what are the values that fill you up the most? What are the core values? Because if people weren't able to tell me their values, I thought, you know what? I'll tell them what are the core values that light people up. And we ended up with personal energy, self care being a core value, human connection, and obviously after COVID, loneliness is at an all time high, and we're in a loneliness epidemic.
Yeah.
Growth is a really important value. And my dad always used to say to me, Toots, a day without learning something new is a lost opportunity. And I always used to ask him, Dad, why do you say that? And he says, well, when you learn new and different things, you stretch your resiliency muscle, you build it, you grow it, you learn that you can do hard things that you've never done before. And life is going to throw you hard things. And when you're really good at growing and learning, you can tackle anything that comes your way. So that's the third value that gives you quality of life. And the fourth one is authenticity and just
Mm,
being you, but not even stepping into who you are and what you need and having the courage to do that, but also being a good listener and looking around and respecting everybody else around you and realizing they may be different, but they have something to offer, and giving them an ear or being open-minded to doing things a different way. So those are the four values that really light us up, and I teach people to use because for the most part those four values really bring a lot of quality of life to just about everyone, whether it's in work or whether it's in your home life.
mm. Do you think that challenges we face in life, looking at those four values, are kind of equally spread across those four, or are there ones that pop up different times in your life, or curious
Yeah,
about
I mean, when I
challenges?
think about challenges, I think about I just recently wrote a blog, and I had this big epiphany because I was about to give a video speech, and my front tooth fell out. And yes, I have my front
God.
tooth now, but that really stressed me out. And I'm thinking to myself, is this fixable? Yes, it's just a tooth. Nobody died. Nobody has cancer. This is not the end of the world. And I started realizing that there are a lot of big stresses in the world, like financial problems and
Mhm, mhm,
war and hunger and just things that aren't as easily fixable. And then there are these tiny little irritants creep up on us and just bother us, and they add up all day long until we finally explode. And they're really not worth it because, for the most case, they're fixable. So, I think about values, and it's great to have, all four values in your world. And I keep a values report card to make sure I'm not ignoring one of the four values. And when I find I'm not rating myself a great score, I'll incorporate that value into the next day, like maybe sleeping. I haven't been focusing on getting a good night's sleep.
mhm.
But what I'm finding is our ability to deal with stress has just gotten to be a very short fuse for most of us. And so,
Uh-huh.
I don't think it's so much life balance, because there is no life balance. I mean, sometimes home life pulls at you. Sometimes somebody's sick. Sometimes work has a lot of demands. I mean, that's life. It pulls and it pushes. But it's recognizing these little stressors and the big stressors, and taking the little stressors and saying, okay, I got that. This is fixable. I'm not going to let it bug me.
Uh-huh. That's really interesting how you have habits around assessing yourself in the core values that you hold, and then determining whether there's action to be taken or not taken to address the stress that could be created from not being aligned, with a particular
Yeah, I
value.
mean, as a woman, I'm an emotional human being, and my brain is wired to be emotional, and most women are. And so throughout my life, I've always tried to be a little bit more rational than I would normally be inclined to, and I really do believe that what gets measured gets improved. And so I do little metrics for everything, because
Mm.
then I can see where I'm going. I think the only metric that I could care less about is my weight, and I never get on the scale because I don't care what it says. But I measure a lot of things because then I can make some micro step improvements and just feel really good about something.
Yeah, great. Well, we have covered a lot in a very short period of time. So efficient. with our time. Just put that out
Well,
there.
that's the way to be with your time versus being in a state of time poverty.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that you'd like to cover with the audience that we didn't talk about?
No, I just want people to think about the price tag that four-letter word busy is costing them,
Mhm.
because it usually means you don't have time with the family, you can't do your best job at work, and I want people to really think about, is what I'm doing and how I'm spending my time of high value or low value? And these little simple yes or no decisions make a huge difference. Eliminating one low value activity can give you 5 hours back in a week, which, wow, what would you do if you had 5 hours back in your week? And
Mhm.
so, this whole notion of busyness, if you can reclaim a little bit of your time by having a better mood and more energy through a happiness ritual, or by subtracting a couple of lower value activities, maybe you go to your boss and you're like, hey, I'm in meetings all day long. I can't get my work done. So, can you help me figure out how to work through this? I think maybe I should be in less meetings, but what do you think? And most certainly, if he is goal and metric driven, he'll look at the job responsibilities and see how much value the meeting adds and say
Yeah.
yes or no. So I guess my point in all of this is we can take these tiny little micro steps that
Mhm.
really add up to more time for what's important, more joy, better health, more productivity.
Yeah. I think there also must be something too about being able to let go of certain perhaps beliefs we have about perfection and getting it, quote, getting it all done. And when you're saying the dopamine hit that comes with knocking things off your to do list, we need to be in action to get things done, but how far we take it, how forgiving we are of ourselves being human beings.
I call myself a busyness addict in recovery because, quite honestly, that busyness always hovers above me and it's always a temptation. And once in a while it wins. But when it does, I go back to the process because, I want to enjoy my life. I want to live a healthier life. I don't want
Mhm.
stress in my life. I want to be productive. And when I'm focused on the right things and intentional, life is just so much more joyful.
Yeah. I think hopeful too, right? Hope jumps in there as well because the future doesn't look like all heavy with things to do. It
Yeah.
looks it looks like sunny and there's always tomorrow.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, as a matter of fact, saying hope is not a strategy. And I'm like, hope is a strategy because when we're optimistic and we can see really great outcomes, then that's the direction we head ourselves in. When all we see is gloom and doom,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
contagious and it's kind of self-fulfilling.
Yeah. Definitely. That not enoughness jumps in when we're not giving ourselves a break.
Yeah, and let go of it. I
Yeah.
mean, I tell people all the time, I'm one big hot mess, and I am. I'm one big hot mess. But I'm lovable and, I that's okay, I don't get it right a lot of the times, and I'm a spiller, and so I am a messy person, on top of all of it. I spill everything all the time.
Yeah.
But yet, it's okay that I'm a hot mess because I'm living my life in a way that is really productive and
Yeah.
meaningful and purposeful. And that's really what eliminating time poverty is all about, is just being intentional with how you spend your time so you have time for the things that are important to you.
Yeah. Well, I would add to your list enjoyable. How
Mhm.
wonderful that that word has joy in it because you are definitely radiating joy. So That's just so great to have you here today, Peggy, to help us through
Well, thank
this.
you. Thank you. I
So,
love being here.
uh,
I always tell listeners, feel free to reach out to me any which way you can. I love people. I love meeting people, and I love helping people really escape the busy traps that
yeah,
we often get stuck into, and it's not hopeless. People often feel as though there's no way around it. I'm a single parent, I work a job, I've got a lot of responsibilities, but actually there always is a way. There always is a way. You just need to find the way.
yeah. So, how can our listeners follow you or find your book and remind them of
They
the
can get
title?
my
Yeah.
book, Beyond Busyness: How to Achieve More with Less, by going to Amazon and searching my name, Peggy Sullivan. And they can also go to my website, Peggy Sullivan Speaker, or they can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I always respond. I'm really big on meeting new people and responding to everybody that reaches out to me. And I love to hear people's stories, and if anything that I said was helpful for them. I To date, I've probably helped thousands of people reclaim their lives and get back on average 4 to 6 hours a week to do the things they want to be doing. So why not? Give it a try.
So, I always ask my guests, what would you tell your 20 something self, Peggy? I'm guessing it could be about busyness, but I'm not sure. But what would you tell your 20 something self?
It would be stop looking forward and just be in the here and
Mm,
the now and enjoy the present and be fully present. Stop working towards a destination, a thing, a promotion, a new house, like all that stuff. The here and the now is amazing if you just take a pause and appreciate it.
love it. And did you get a chance to go to our shop on our website and take a look at our gifts and cards there? Is there anything that spoke to you?
I couldn't make a selection, so I didn't.
Well, I'm thinking maybe we could do something around busyness. So maybe
Yeah.
I'll collaborate with you a little bit on what a good quote might be from our episode, and we can make one. That would be kind of cool to do. I've done that for some of our guests, and that's been really fun. And I've noticed that some of the it's gotten to be kind of a popular thing. A couple of them are like, getting orders, and so I'm happy with that. I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind ending our episode today by reading a couple pages from your book on subtraction. Mhm.
Okay, Subtraction. In the New York Times opinion piece, climber Francis Sanzaro explained how his failure at a difficult ascent was caused by his aspiration to go to the top. In a strange dichotomy, visualizing himself at the top of the mountain, a technique every motivational coach suggests, didn't get him there. Near the peak, he fell. By imagining his success, he had bound himself with it and made it part of his self image. The pressure became greater, not less. It created an unconscious and unavoidable performance anxiety.
Mhm.
As soon as he gave up the desire to succeed at the climb, it became fun. He was able to joyfully scramble up the cliff face without incident. He had discovered, he wrote, the power of subtraction, allowing him to explain it in his own words. And this is what he wrote: when I added determination, grit, self confidence, desire, I failed.
Mhm.
When I took away the desire for success, my body moved with fluidity and naturalness. I improved and I enjoyed it. He goes on to say the tactic of subtraction goes against the grain of the mindset revolution, in which it seems everyone is so focused on adding more, the quality to this mental approach, the growth mindset, the abundance mindset, the gratitude mindset. But in this genre of self optimization, if it can be called that, we are adding more and more duct tape to something that isn't broken, our mind, until it is so covered, we lose sight of the beautifully designed machine underneath it all, and thus becomes, in fact, broken.
Mhm.
To me, this sounds an awful lot like busyness, the glorification of more, the sanctification of adding one more task, technique, or desire result.
Mhm.
This belief that only way to get more is to do more, do extra stuff, do the reps. I mean, it makes logical sense, but it really doesn't work. You know this because you've tried it and it really never has worked. You've left exhausted and burnt out, and you didn't get what you strived for. Try subtraction instead. It improves your ability to focus, to be present, get more by doing less. More is less, less is more. Now get out there and show the world what we're talking about.
Oh, amen. Thank you again for joining us. It's a great place
You
to
are
end.
you are quite welcome. It was my pleasure.
Thanks for joining us today. If Peggy's message about breaking free from busyness resonated with you or made you rethink your own relationship with time, I'd love for you to leave a review wherever you're listening. Your feedback helps more people discover the show and take those first steps toward living with more joy and intention. And as someone you know is overwhelmed, burned out, or constantly saying, I'm so busy, share this episode with them. Peggy's busy busting framework might be exactly what they need to hear today. You can also join our public Facebook group, Girl Take the Lead, or visit our website at girltaketheleadpod.com for more episodes, resources, and meaningful cards and gifts from our store. And we're on YouTube. You can hear us on YouTube music, and you can just search at Girl Take the Lead and hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. A few of my favorite quotes from Peggy. Busy is a 4-letter word. I love that one. Eliminating just one low value activity can give you 5 hours back each week. Oh. And lastly, less really is more. Subtraction is where the magic happens. Mm. Here are 3 key takeaways from today's episode. 1, busyness can be an addiction, fueled by dopamine hits from constant doing. 2, simple happiness rituals like Peggy's daily dark chocolate pause boost focus and joy. And 3, aligning with your core values, energy, connection, growth, authenticity is the key to real fulfillment. Coming up next week on Girl Take the Lead, I'll be joined by Nicole Santo-Nastasso and Beth Chapman Kaufman, 2 of my Chi Omega sisters I've gotten to know through the Nancy Walton Laurie Leadership Institute. In April, I had the honor of attending the Chi Omega Intentional Leadership Masterclass, and it completely blew me away. We'll talk about crafting your own true North statement, and what it is, why it matters, and how this gentle process we went through can help you lead with clarity and purpose. You won't want to miss it. Until then, take care of your heart, lead with courage, and remember, you got this. Talk soon. Bye.